Hello everyone. So we are back with the next session on business communication. In the last session, we have discussed about the written and the oral mode of communication. Now, in today's session, we will be discussing about the second type of verbal communication, that is written communication. Now, whether we talk about verbal communication or we talk about in verbal communication, whether we talk about oral communication or written communication, one thing remains same, and that is verbal communication is all related to the use of word, whether we are writing it down, whether we are speaking it, whether we are using the words by mouth. So either it is mouth and ears combination, or else it is eyes and hence combination. But whatever it is the type of communication which uses words to explain what you want to communicate to other person. Now in today's session we will be starting with the written communication. Now, what do you think if we go to any kind of organization, of if we are dealing with any business unit, let's say it's an organization, it's a business unit, it's an enterprise. So what do you think, what is the best way of communication which they should use while communicate either with the people within the organization or with the people outside the organization? What do you think? Which type of communication is the best and the trusted way of communication? Which type of communication is the best and trusted way of communication? See, if we talk about oral, it is very quick. If we talk about oral communication, like the communication which we are doing right now, it is a very quick communication. I can explain what is running in my mind and convey my message to you. And within fraction of seconds, you can convey the feedback back to me. So it is a quick process. But there is one very big loophole in this process, that what was discussed right now between you as a sender and the other person as the receiver, there is no proof that what you have discussed, what you have said, and on what terms, what grounds the other person has accepted. You do not have any written proof. Even at a later time, the person can deny, I wasn't aware, I wasn't being informed about that same thing. So to overcome those obstacles, to overcome those situations in the business unit, what we usually do is we usually go with the written communication, because listen to this line very carefully, that because in written communication we will have the proof, of the document, a formal written agreement, a formal written mail, a formal written message. Everything will be in the written form. No one can deny at later hours that we were not being informed. Let's say you have informed something related to the policies to the employees. Employees may come out and say, we were not aware about this change in the policy, because that was communicated verbally. But now when you are circulating the message to all the person in the organization via email, via a memo, in your group, you will have a written proof that this thing was communicated on this date at this time. So what will happen? What benefit will you get? The benefit which we will get when we are into the formal business organization, when we are into formal communication, the benefit is no one can deny about the facts which were being discussed, the feedback which was being received, the terms of agreement which were agreed upon. No one can deny upon those things. And that is why when we talk about organization, when we talk about the business contracts, we always go with the written mode of communication. So in verbal communication, the second type of communication, which is the most preferred way of communication, which is the most trusted way of communication, is the written mode of communication. No doubt in oral communication and as well as in written communication, both the communication uses the words to explain their thoughts, their ideas to other person. But the only difference between oral communication and written communication is in oral communication, we speak the words. In written communication, we write down the words and circulate the message. Okay. Now let's discuss about written communication. Written communication, it is a formal type of communication. Why formal? Because here we are very selective in selecting the words, in selecting the message, in drafting the message. We cannot write anything randomly. We cannot write any language. No, it should be formally designed in a formal and a proper way with the proper format being followed for each and everything. That is why it is known as the formal type of communication. The second thing it says is the sender of the message or his representative constitute the writer. The sender of the message or his representative constitute the writer. Either the sender write the message or any of the representative. It is not necessary that only the sender need to write the message. It can be sender, it can be his representative, let's say in the organization. The message is being circulated from the organizational side. It can be drafted by the manager, by any of the person who is authorized to draft that message, who is authorized to circulate that message. So the message can be by the sender or any of the representative. The third one says written communication is usually considered binding on business organization and is often used as evidence. And that was what we were discussing from so long, that it is something which is considered binding on business organization. It is binding the business organization for whatever commitment they have given. And it is also the proof of the discussion which happened between the organization. You know, we always say that we should trust people. Trust is very important. There should be trust among the between the people who are dealing with each other. But on the other hand, we also say prevention is better than cure, right? So it's always good to be on the safe side in case anyone denies from what was being agreed upon. Because when we are talking about the organization, you know, each and everything is dependent upon the other work, right? My work is dependent on the work my client is going to give. His work is again dependent on some other person. So it's a chain which continues. And if in between any one person denies, any one person do not fulfill the commitment, it puts an end to the entire chain. It is as simple as if you're talking about the business unit. Let's say I am a shopkeeper. I have a customer demand of few items. I have given the order to the manufacturer. No, to the wholesaler. Wholesaler has entered into the contract with the manufacturer. Manufacturer again entered into the contract with the supplier. Now, from these four people, the ultimate is the customer. From these four people who are involved in delivering the ultimate product, if any one person denies of fulfilling the order on time, the entire cycle gets affected. So that is why this written communication is considered as binding the people to fulfill their commitment, to fulfill their words which they have given, and this is often used as the evidence also. Technological advancement has enlarged the gamut of written communication through email and other facilities. So, due to this technological advancement, we do not have to write each and everything manually. We do not have to take the paper, pen, we have to write anything. No, we are so much advanced in the technology nowadays that we just have to pick up our phone, we just have to pick up our laptop, and we can easily type on the mails and we can circulate the same. These emails, if we get the reward from the emails, these are also considered as the written communication proof. They are also the written communication proof. People cannot deny over the agreement, over the things which they have agreed over emails. So now the second thing is, what are the factors in written communication? Now, if I talk about the factors in written communication, what do you think? What are the factors in written communication? The first factor, the first thing is the writer. We need to have a writer, right? If we do not have a writer, can we communicate? No, we cannot communicate if we do not have a writer. So it is very important. The first thing, the first requirement in written communication is we need to have a writer. The writer can be the sender himself, or it can be any of the representative of the sender. Either of the one need to be there, who is going to draft the message, who is going to write down the idea on the paper, who is going to send that thing to the receiver. Now, when we have the writer, what writer is going to do? What is going to write? He is going to make a content, right? If he gets an idea in the mind, if we want to communicate that idea to other person, so what he is going to do? He is going to prepare the content, right? Second factor which is required is he needs to prepare the content. Now, once he prepared the content, then now he has to take into consideration few things when he is preparing the content. The first thing which he has to take care is the language. What language he is going to use. So what language he is going to use? When we are communicating with other person, it is very important to understand and to know in which language the other person is comfortable in. If we do not know that which language he is going to speak, which language he understands, till that time, it is impossible to communicate your message. You might draft a very good message. You might draft a very, very good content. But what that you have drafted the message in English and the other person do not know that language. Do you think the purpose of drafting your message is solved? Do you think that content, that good content is going to give you results? No. That is not going to give you results. So for that purpose, it is very important to know that what language you are going to use. The fourth point is the purpose of communication. What is the purpose of communication? Why you're drafting the message? Why you are appointing a writer? Why you are drafting the content? Why you are using the language which is known to both the parties? What is the purpose of communication? What you want to communicate? You just want to write, hi, how are you? I hope you are doing good. Thank you. Thanks and regards, your name. Do you want to communicate that? No, definitely for that, we are not going to write the mail. We do not need a writer. We do not need a content. We do not need to know the language in which the other person is comfortable. That can be done using the oral communication as well. So what is the purpose of communication? Why are you communicating? What's the reason for communication? So you need to be very sure about the purpose of communication as well. So once you have the writer, once you know the content, then it becomes very easy it becomes very easy to prepare the message. Until and unless you are not sure about the purpose of the communication, you cannot frame the right message. The style adopted, formal or friendly. Now, what style you are going to adopt? Are you going to adopt the formal style, or you are going to adopt the friendly style? So what kind of style you are going to adopt? This is again one other important factor which you have to decide. So let's say it's related to your business. You are starting a new business unit and you want new suppliers. So it needs to be formal. It is not going to be friendly. It's not going to be friendly communication which you are going to use when you are talking about the business purpose, when you are entering into a new contract with other person. So at this point of time, the style adopted is going to be formal only. So when you're drafting the mail, when you are aware about the purpose of communication, the second thing which you need to decide is which form of communication you're going to use. Are you going to be formal with the communication, or you are going to be friendly? And the last point says is the receiver. Now, for whom you are doing everything? For whom you are doing this? You are doing all these things because you want to communicate. You want to communicate to the receiver, right? You're doing all these things because you want to communicate to the receiver. So know your receiver, know the purpose of the message, draft the message. So these are the 6 factors which are very important when you are going with the written mode of communication. Prerequisites of written communication. Now, when you are going with the written communication, what are things you need to know before drafting the mail, before going with this form of communication? So first thing you need to know is how much to put in writing. How much content you are going to write. Are you supposed to write the entire essay? Are you supposed to stretch the message unnecessary? Or you are supposed to make your message precise but complete, carrying all the necessary details and information about the message which you want to deliver? So how you are going to, what exactly you are looking for? Basically, you are going to decide how much you have to put in writing, how much things are required, what are the important points which are required, which you have to share with other person, with the receiver. So this is again a very typical thing, because usually people do the mistake over here only. What kind of mistake they do when they are drafting the message? When they're drafting the message, they do not know what exactly they have to communicate. They do not know what exactly they have to communicate, or what are the points they have to write, and unnecessarily they just stretch the word. So that unnecessary stretching of the word is not good. Unnecessary stretching of the paragraph, writing the things which are not required. So you need to put in efforts while drafting your message. What to leave out? Again, this is very important. What things you do not need to disclose, what things you do not need to write. So that also you should know. That these are the things which we do not have to know. These are the things which are not required. So how much to put in and how much, what are the things which you need to avoid? You should know, you should be aware about both the things. When to stop, when to convey, and by what means to convey. These 3 things are again related to each other. When you need to stop, what you have to convey, and when you need to, what means to convey, by what means you're going to convey. You're going to take the printouts, you're going to send the email, you're going to drop the message and share a memo, you're going to share the printouts. So by what means, by what way you are going to convey the message, again, that is very important, which you have to decide. Again, that is very important, which you need to decide. And when this message is required, you know, sometimes, let's say we are going for the tender, we have filled the tender, and now if we do not fill the tender, we have done everything, but we have not filed, we have not sent, we have not shared the tender to other person. If we do not do that on time, do you think that efforts of preparing the tender, of writing the quotation is going to be of any use? No, because you do not know when the thing is to be communicating, when you need to communicate, when you need to convey that thing. So again, that is very important, which you need to keep in mind, that in written mode of communication, timing matters. Whether it is written communication, it is oral communication, it is non-verbal type of communication, whichever communication you are using, you need to be very much sure about when you have to convey those things. When the things have to be conveyed. Like timing matters. If you are wrong with the timing, your entire thing is going to go wrong. So make sure you do not do that mistake of going wrong with the timing. Be sure about when you need to communicate, when you need to convey this thing to other person. Now, as we all know, everything has a merit as well as a demerit. So here, when we talk about merits and demerits, the first merit of written communication is precise and accurate. It is precise, it is accurate. If you are going to follow that prerequisites and along with that, the factors which need to be taken care in written communication, your message is going to be precise as well as it is going to be accurate. So you need to be very much sure about and very much, very much selective about what is to be written, and everything needs to be accurate. Because here, once you have quoted something, once you have agreed upon something, you won't be in a stage to deny with the fact that I never agreed, because both of you have entered into the written communication where both the parties have the proof about what was being communicated. So make sure that thing doesn't happen. The second point is easily verify. The information which you are going to share in written mode of communication, that can be very easily verified because it's a document. You just have to go through the document. You just have to check the terms and conditions. You just have to check the agreement, the contract, and everything can be cleared at that same point of time, right? So you can easily verify what was being told, what was being agreed upon, and what you have got. Third thing is it's a permanent record. Now with the use, why it's a permanent record? If earlier, if we talk about the olden time where we were not, when we were not technology friendly, that time also it was been recorded, everything was kept recorded, like everything was on paper, and they used to maintain those files and they used to keep them. And now with the technological advancement, we can save all those things in our mail, on our desktop, on our hard disk, in our pen drive, in our phone, Google Docs. We have so many places where we can save all those things. So these become the permanent record. This becomes the permanent record which can be checked, verified at any point of time. Fourth point says suitable for lengthy and complicated messages. So obviously, yes, it is the most suitable form of communication which is used for the lengthy and the most complicated messages. Whenever the messages are complicated, lengthy, you can easily write down everything. And once you write down everything, the other person can read. He can read that multiple times. You know, in let's say in the first go, if he is unable to understand what was being communicated, he can go through that multiple times. He can go through that 2-3 times also. So here it is suitable for the lengthy and the most complicated communication. Responsibility can be fixed. You know, they can easily fix on the responsibilities. People can easily fix on the responsibilities that, okay, this was the responsibility given to that person, and you can easily check whether the other person has fulfilled that responsibility or not. And the last merit is has legal validity. Yes, it is absolutely true that it has the legal validity. Legality, the things which you have conveyed can easily be checked, easily be validated. So these are all the merits of using the written form of communication. Now, after written form of communication, the second, the demerits. If we have the positives of communication, we also have the negatives of communication, and the negative of communication is seven negatives. We have 7 demerits of written communication. The first demerit of written communication is slower method of communication. Why do we say that written communication is slower method of communication? It is the slow method of communication. Why do we say that? The reason is, you know, in written mode of communication, what happens? You write down the message, you send that message, other person, the receiver reads that message. If he doesn't understand anything, he just write down it to you. You clarify that thing, then he sends the feedback. So it takes time. It is not on the spot, spontaneous reply, spontaneous feedback, which you get. That is not happening over here. So that is why we say it is a slower method of communication. The second point says further delay if clarifications are required. Now, this is what I told, and in case of anything which is not clarified, any point which is not clarified, so at that point of time, you know, there is a lot of delay in clarifying the thing. The person writes, send the message, the sender clarifies that, receiver checks if he has understood or not. If not, then he'll again ask for the clarification, sender again send the mail. So this two-way communication, this two-way written mode of communication takes a lot of time, and it delays the process. It is not the best and the suitable way of communication when you have to take sudden and immediate actions. If you think that you need to take immediate actions, you need to take immediate decisions about something, so for that purpose, this written communication is not going to be successful. Let's say in the case of crisis, in the case of emergencies, at that point of time, this written mode of communication cannot be used. For example, there's sudden fire in the organization, at your workplace, you see a sudden fire. Do you think you're supposed to just sit over there and you're just supposed to write the mail to all the colleagues that there is a fire, we need to vacate the office? Do you think, is that the best way of communication to use at that point of time? Do you need to keep the proof of that thing? No, we do not have to keep the proof of that thing. So that's why we say that for some communication, this written mode of communication is not the right way of communication. So when you are selecting about the communication, which form of communication to be used in the verbal communication, whether it's going to be written or oral, you need to be very much clear about the concepts, when to use written and when to use oral. The third point says leads to too much of paperwork. Definitely. This is absolutely true. No one can deny the fact, though we are using the technology, but still to keep the proofs, many organizations, many people still go with the paperwork only. So it leads to too much of paperwork. Lot of paperwork is required. Lot of paperwork is done when we're talking about the written mode of communication. So when there is a lot of paperwork, so definitely it's going to take a lot of time. So it's not a quick process. It's a process which takes a lot of time. Always a possibility of ambiguity or lack of comprehensibility. That possibility is always there. Costly in terms of money and men are. Now when we're talking about money and men are, so definitely it is a very costly affair. It is very costly when we talk about money and man hours. It takes lots of time, lots of time. So it is a very costly affair. And the last thing, 6 points is no flexibility. So here definitely the flexibility of the words, the flexibility of doing the thing, the flexibility of making the changes, those things are not there. Once something is written on the paper, once the sender and the receiver have agreed upon those things, then there is no scope of making any changes until and unless both the parties do not agree. So that flexibility is not there. Both of them just strictly follow what are the things which were being decided. And the last thing is literacy is very essential. You know, here either we will use some specific language to communicate. So their literacy is something which is very, very essential when we talk about written communication. In oral communication, you know, by many ways we can make other person understand what we are trying to say. We can use our they can understand by expressions, by our gestures, by the way we are speaking. So there are many ways by which we can explain them the things. But in written mode of communication, those ways are not available. You cannot make other person understand the things because you are writing it down and you're sending it to other person. So there it is very important that whenever you're sharing the other person, the receiver of the message and the sender of the message, both the parties involved in the process of communication are literate. Now with this, we have come to the end of the written communication. We have studied the merits, demerits of oral as well as written communication. We have also understood that what are the timings when we are supposed to use written mode of communication and when we are supposed to use the oral mode of communication. So again, when you're working into the organization, make sure you are aware about when to use oral and when to use the written form of communication. Now with this, we have completed the first type of communication, that is the verbal communication. Now the second and the most important type of communication, and this non-verbal communication is directly related to the oral communication and verbal communication. So non-verbal communication is something where we do not use our words to make other person understand something. Rather, we use our body language, our postures, our facial expression, our eye contact, our gestures to make other person understand what we are trying to say. So when we talk about non-verbal communication, basically, it is the use of our body to convey the message, to explain the message to the other person. So non-verbal communication says the transmission of message or signals, through a non-verbal platform such as eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, postures, and body language. So this non-verbal communication is nothing but the use of the body parts, our gestures, the way we say, the way we speak, the way we use Our eye moves, the way our body moves, the way our posture happens, the way our hand moves. These are the things which convey a meaning to other person. And you will be shocked to know that 55% of the communication which happens in our day-to-day life, which happens in our entire life, is by the use of non-verbal communication. Many times you just catch the lie that the person is speaking. How? By the use of their non-verbal language. Many times a person doesn't speak that he's going through a bad phase, he's going through a bad day, but still you just go and ask out of curiosity, what happened there? Is everything fine? Is everything okay? How you got to know that? By their body language, by their facial expression, by their gestures, by their eye contact, by their postures. Many times, you know, when we used to sit in the class, all of a sudden, teacher used to say, you're not listening, Mr. X, Mr. So-and-so, you're not listening. How you got to know that thing? Because you're saying that you're not paying attention. There's no eye contact. The body language is saying as if you're just feeling relaxed. You're just feeling lazy to listen to what the teacher is saying. So how that thing happened? That thing again happened by understanding the non-verbal communication clues which you are getting from the other person. So body movements and gestures constitute 55% of the effective communication. And this is really true that these body movements and gestures are something which constitute to the 55% of the effective communication. Only 45% of the communication is done using the words we speak. Rest, the entire communication is by the non-verbal communication, the gestures, postures, body movement, facial expressions. It takes place without written or spoken words. So yes, it is something which do not require the spoken words, which do not require the written word. It just happens using the body language only. Nonverbal communication is those messages that are expressed by means other than the linguistic. Linguistic is the language. So this is the communication which happens, which takes place, which is done by using the language, by using the signs and symbols other than the languages, other than the linguistic. And the last one says, while you can refuse to speak or write, it is impossible to avoid behaving non-verbally. Non-verbal communication, symbols, non-verbal way of talking, all these things are not in our control. It is simply impossible to speak or write. It is simply impossible that you avoid these non-verbal signals. You can stop writing. You can say, I am not going to write. I'm not going to speak. But you cannot stop behaving, or you cannot avoid behaving non-verbally. So these are the non-verbal communication. There are a lot of different types of non-verbal communication, which we are going to discuss. That is, first we'll be discussing about the indicators, and then we will be talking about the different types of non-verbal communication, which we use in our day-to-day life. So basically, we are going to discuss about the 5 different types of non-verbal communication. So that we are going to discuss in the next session of business communication. Till here, if you have any doubt, please ask. You have any doubt? No? Okay. So we are done with today's session of non-verbal communication and business verbal communication, business communication. Now in the next section, we will be talking about the different types of non-verbal communication. If you have any doubts, you can get back to me in the next session. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day.